In 1993, I was having problems, obvious problems, and kind of put off going to the doctor because I never get sick. And in March of '94, I went into emergency surgery for appendectomy. My appendix had blown up. And as a result of that, they found a grapefruit-sized tumor with over 300 different root stems going throughout my entire abdomen. Over the course of 7 months, I, being, have a science background and being a believer in medicine today, I had to do the chemo, I had to do that. After 11 hours of surgery for an appendectomy, I found out just how extensive the damage was. It had gone testicular to the kidneys. Later on, it had metastasis to the liver, not extremely severe, but once it reaches the liver, usually that's kind of you got 6 months type of a thing. I did chemotherapy for 6 months straight. At the end of that term, the side effects had taken pretty much a big toll, as a lot of people understand and have observed it or been through it themselves. And it was time to quit. My system was dying faster than the cancer was killing me. So the decision of mine was to walk away from cancer. And they said, if you did, you're not going to last long. But being the inquisitive person I am, I had to research and look. And my whole purpose was just to understand what was killing me, because you can know all the science in the world and everything, but if you never really understand what happens when cancer sets in. So I studied the healthy system. What happens to an individual cell, just a single individual cell, in a normal lifespan? And then I compared that in cytology, as a lot of people will try to keep it at that high school level, so it's easier understood. But what happens, to compare that to what happens to a disease cell when free radicals come in, the very beginning stage of cancer, the very first cell that divides as a mutation. And there started to become some very recognizable items about that. And so I started looking on the marketplace all over the world for something to take care of this deficiency, something to take care of that deficiency. And over a period of time, I kept good records. I was terrified to go back to my oncologist to find out if I still had cancer 2 years later. And I finally got up enough guts to go back, and I did, and found that there was no cancer. So that's kind of how I got into this. And the other half of your question is what have I been doing and how did I get into alternative therapy as a profession? Quite by accident. Quite by accident. People started calling me saying, "Gee, David, we want to do what you do. What do you do? How'd you do it?" And I'm like, are you guys crazy? Something that worked for me, I don't know if it's going to work for somebody else. And it's just to the point where they said they have no more hope. They've been everywhere. They've tried this and tried that. And so I helped guide them through some things that I thought were, very important to be done. And my reputation got bigger and bigger and bigger. Next thing I know, I'm out, several years later doing speaking seminars all across the U.S. And that's kind of how I got into this. If you're the oncologist and I get to talk to you,
Yes.
I have done this. I have talked to oncologists till I'm blue in the face. It's very difficult because legally they only have 3 answers to this. What can you as an oncologist do for your patients with assurance that this is really going to help them? There's usually no response. No response. In fact, our clinic has treated family members of oncologists. And by no fault of their own, they're kind of forced into this. I think oncologists are started out to be very committed doctors. They went to school, they paid their dues, they paid their money. That's a lot of years, hoping to come out and make a difference in this world. And it's so discouraging when they do find out that they can only do what the government allows them to do. You will find, and not in public and not admitted anywhere on film, oncologists who would never do their own treatment and therapy. That's my number 1 question for an oncologist. If you yourself or your wife or your children had cancer, would you treat them the things that you practice today, that you're paid to do? The answer is pretty obvious. The ones who want to stay in the political power and all this other stuff, and they think they're a walking God and they can do everything and anything, they'll tell you to your face, yes. But when it gets down to it, and when it's serious, and when it hit home, they will do something else. You know, chemo, it's just an awful way to treat people that are already sick, is by pumping more poisons in you. But it is the only thing that is accepted. Skin cancer is a very hot topic in the media today. Everybody is, you're either coming out as an oncologist or a dermatologist. Skin cancers are from non-invasive, slow-growing, oh, well, that looks like basal cell carcinoma, you know, you can take it off today or 10 years from now. Malignant melanoma is a different story. It's the #1 cancer killer in America today for skin cancers is malignant melanoma. If you have a spot on your ear, 2 or 4 or 6 millimeters, they're going to want to remove your entire ear and half your cheek to get it all. It is that aggressive and that bad. We can get rid of skin cancer, from malignant melanoma to basal cell carcinoma and all 5 or 6 in between. And it's using natural products, and it's doing other things. How many people we've treated who have had multiple surgeries, and it always comes back and it always comes back. Because on the surface you see an irregular surface that says, this is odd. What you don't see is what's underneath, and here's what's underneath, all the little roots. We actually have the capability of putting this poultice on the surface of something, and if there is cancerous material or positive antigens, proteins specific to types of cancers, we can reach it within 3 centimeters of the surface. Me, as a biophysicist, that's my job, is to help educate people so that we can have a happy clinic. What's a happy clinic? A happy clinic is a clinic that doesn't have a lot of people in it because your doctors and your staff is doing their job. They're keeping people healthy. And that's our whole goal. Once you have it, once you want to treat it, you know, in my opinion, going with an alternative, going with something that is not as invasive, as early stage as you can possibly get it, your chances are better, in my opinion, to survive that than going in and doing what we're taught to do. Do what your doctor tells you, everything your doctor tells you. The items that we address are very specific for an individual. Is there a nutshell to describe that? Yeah, and it's all the standard things that people who are looking at alternative therapies know about. It's just a matter of putting it all together in a sequence that works with their chemistry. We do live blood analysis every week on every patient to be able to work and measure and control these chemistries and to say, where's it changing? Where are we at? And he's got too much potassium now. We're going to cut this back. The alkalinity level is below where it needs to be. We want to get it back up to 8.5. instead of a very acidic ratio. We have on staff down here a medical intuitive who is so sensitive to do this, and she has been over the last couple of years teaching me things to do that, and I try not to rely on that because I'm just really not sold on it yet. But I do know several patients that we've had that even I would say these people can't be here. They've got a week to live. And I have seen with the input of utilizing a medical intuitive person, practitioner, by no medical reason should this guy be alive. Not only was he alive, his cancer was killed. He left 6 weeks later, ready to go back home, find his fiancée and get married. Young guy, 32 years old. Doomed when he got here. Looked like warmed over death. The only difference in therapies, the only thing we did different was to include a medical intuitive to work with him one-on-one. That's it. There's a lot to a lot of things in this world, and I don't understand them all, and I don't think I should. Miracles, yeah, there's miracles. Common sense therapy, yes, there's common sense therapy. There's a lot of science behind therapy that should not be ignored. Just because it's not making a lot of money and you can't patent the formulas and make a lot of money, it shouldn't be ignored because they're unpatentable.